Days possibly ahead as Johannesburg Water tries to get its house in order. The entity has an infrastructure renewal backlog to the value of 26 billion rand, City Mayor Dada Morero announced recently. Joburg Water says there are 128 reservoirs, with 45 needing refurbishment, which normally takes 1 year each. Of these, 22 are on the critical list for refurbishment at a cost of 25 million rand per job. I'll leave you to do the sums in the background. But what will keep more water in the system and ensure security of supply? The DA spokesperson for water power, MMC, shadow MMC for water power, Pikitup and environment, Nicole van Dyk, joins me now to chat more. Nicole, good morning and thanks for your time. I think let's just start with what we're up against. How big and deep are the problems at Johannesburg Water from your perspective?
Good morning to everyone and thanks for this opportunity. I think the problems are immense. This isn't something that we saw coming in the last couple of months. Joburg Water actually warned 3 years ago that they were going to become the next Eskom, that their infrastructure was very fast collapsing, and unless immediate interventions were made, and those are going to cost significant sums of money to get right, that we were going to be facing a crisis. And the crisis was never going to be a day zero of not having enough water to actually supply areas. But the infrastructure is just breaking so much that you can't get water from point A to point B. And you've highlighted it here. You've got 128 reservoirs, 45 are leaking. And then I think the biggest thing that we always have to worry about is Joburg Water loses 46% of the water that it purchases. It's already purchased from Rand Water. And before it makes it to a single tap, 46% of that water is gone.
I'm going to come back to that one in just a moment, but I want to go to what the public is experiencing, Nicole, what people like yourself, the mayor and the water entities, including the minister, are saying. So let me set it out. These are the conflicting reports. Last Wednesday, Mayor Morero said the integrated Vaal River system, which is the city's primary water source, was under severe strain, with reservoir levels dropping to critical thresholds. Then the water activists, people like Water Can, say the Vaal Dam is low, but the IVRS is not under severe strain, but that the city's reservoir levels were leaking to critical thresholds, and I think you highlighted a little bit of that now. Then Minister Phemi Majodina says the crisis in the province in its entirety is because the Munichs are not cooperating with water conservation measures. They're allowing overconsumption and ignoring the maintenance that you talked about in terms of infrastructure, that this was a self-inflicted pain. Has the mayor misdiagnosed the problem? Is he abdicating his responsibility?
Yes, in all honesty, the facts speak for themselves. Both Rand Water, Water Can, and the Department of Water Sanitation via Sean Phillips, who's doing a very good job there, they've highlighted that the Vaal River system is fine. Yes, the Vaal itself is at a critical level, it's at 34%. But in terms of the river system, which is about 14 rivers, you're looking at around 78% capacity. So if the Vaal reaches any lower levels, they're able to pump from another system. So that's absolutely fine. The matter comes flat and square down to the fact that there are too many leaks happening in the city. Now, you can blame residents. The mayor's going to blame residents. You can't do that when you are losing 46% of the water. We are talking to multiple communities around Johannesburg. You're looking specifically at places like Joburg South, especially in the east, some parts of Rudaport, Westbury, the Commando system. They have been hard hit. To say to residents who almost never have water, they've got it for 2 hours a day if they're lucky. And that's around the time that they're getting ready, which is good. But they don't have it for the rest of the day. So how do you say to multitudes of residents that you have to use what you don't have sparingly? The other big thing that we need to look at is, infrastructure across the city, whether it's water, power, roads. We are, as a city, signing off on so many developments across the area, and there is not a single bit of increased infrastructure that's happening. People are just tapping into the existing infrastructure, which some of it is 80 years old, and expecting that to give capacity to a city that is growing more and more every single year. So, I think he's completely misdiagnosed the problem. You can't blame the Vaal River system. Rand Water is pumping at the absolute capacity that they can. So, we're there.
Nicole, let's just go back to the 48, well, you said 46%. I read a stat saying 48.2% of the water revenue being lost through leaks. I just want to really reinforce the point that you said. Now, this is bought and paid for. So this is not even just, moral issue around the fact that water is such a precious resource, but it's actually bought and paid for, and that almost half of it is going and being lost through leaks or theft or non-payment. But it happens in a context, Nicole, of a decade-old war on leaks that has been waged. Yeah. So the question is, why is the city unable to make proper progress on this?
Well, I mean, it comes down to something so simple as making budget cuts to pipe replacements. You should be doing an annual pipe replacement. This is on sewer and your water lines, anything between 150 to 350 kilometers annually. In the last 2 years, Joburg Water has been replacing 28 kilometers. So you're not increasing the capacity of these pipes. More water is coming through them. They're bursting a lot more. So it's something so small as basic pipe replacement that's not happening in the city. And if you start looking at a lot of these pipes and you actually started to do some of these pipe replacements a couple of years ago, and I have to say this, but when we were running the city, we were up to 150 kilometers. Again, last 2 years, only 28 kilometers.
Okay, all right. So let's talk about the fix it and repair crew, because that then is where we look to some relief and for some of this corrective action to be taken. So this is the crew at Joburg Water. You've said, Nicole, previously that fleet is only operating at a capacity of 55%. Tell us more about that.
Yeah, so that was actually what Joburg Water highlighted in a meeting with councillors about 4 or 5 weeks ago. But if you look at the last quarterly report from Joburg Water, they are sitting at 281 vehicles out of 715. So they're still waiting for over 400 vehicles to be delivered. A lot of the vehicles that they do have are these double cab buckies, which are not helpful in many ways because much of the infrastructure that you need for repairs is quite large. So they're still waiting for all those big water trucks that you see, those big square trucks. They don't have anywhere near that. And now the situation that you face is Joburg Water has an SLA. They're supposed to be repairing bursts and leaks within 48 hours of logging the fault. I just got a message from a resident in my own ward. 2 months a leak has been occurring. And this is a minor leak. So the 48 hours is just not being met in any way, shape, or form. You'll see it in Joburg Water's quarterly report for this final quarter, which is coming up in the upcoming council, that they are saying that they are not meeting target, but they're around 70%. I would even dare to argue that that's not happening. And Joburg Water people on the ground, the technicians who are really just trying their best, they will tell you that they don't have near enough spare parts or vehicles to get to these leaks as in how they need to get to them.
I mean,
so,
complete the thought.
No, I mean, I was just last week when we were listening to the mayor at the commando system, and he was stipulating that they're going to, that they want to even get this below 48 hours. I don't know how you're going to do this when you don't have the necessary vehicles. And that question is still yet to be answered by anyone in the entity or in the executive.
And I think these are questions we can put to the mayor, and we'll endeavour to get him back to ask some of these targeted questions. Very simple, basic things that you're saying, but budget allocations in the right thing. So let's do the pipe replacement. Let's bolster the fleet. Let's make sure they've got everything technically in terms of spare parts and so on to just get the job done. We've seen the Mayor Dada Morero committing to increasing Joburg Water's capex budget, repairing the leaking reservoirs and the towers, improving the leak detection, some of which do have echoes of things that we've been promised earlier on, including stricter bylaw enforcement. But you're saying there has to be a tougher response to this. Now, what does that look like?
The tougher response, I mean, let's start with the bylaw enforcement. Bylaw enforcement is a very easy way to bring finances into the city, especially on things like illegal advertising. Now, if you drive down any main road anywhere in the city of Johannesburg, you're going to see A-frames from here to Kingdom Come. Those A-frames, I just want to highlight this, those A-frames have the name of the company, the address, the phone number. So there's very little detective work that needs to be done. And JMPD is not able to enforce those bylaws. That's a simple bylaw that can bring in significant funding by finding each of those A-frames 5,000 Rand, and that would bolster some budget for Joburg. So I just
Nicole,
want to say, I'm not quite sure.
It may be my hearing, but it sounds like A-frames. I mean, what are you saying? I didn't hear you correctly.
Oh, sorry. It's an A-frames are these trailers. It's like a triangle-shaped trailer, and it's got the name of a company. It's an advertisement. It's an advertisement on a trailer itself. And these are left on our pavements to advertise to people, and most of them are illegal. And you're looking at 5,000 Rand, upwards to find these people that will bring money into the city. The point I'm trying to make is, if JMPD is not able to enforce those bylaws that are so visible, how are you going to enforce bylaws on areas where you've got people washing cars behind closed, behind high walls? In shopping centres, you've got a lot of these car washes where JMPD isn't getting access to. So it's very difficult to see how that's going to happen. But, we do welcome it. I think the other big thing is there's nothing punitive about the current level 1 restrictions. So you've got these level 1 restrictions, but there isn't any punitive measure. That needs to be passed in council. It's got to be a measure that's got to be passed so that you can issue the necessary fines. That hasn't happened yet. But, again, if you're going to fine, you can't fine a resident for maybe not knowing the restriction, watering their garden in the day, and then still, as we've highlighted, losing our 46% of the water we've already bought through these systems. So we're very happy to hear that there's R1 billion that's going to increase. Part of that increase also needs to include the pipe replacements. And I just want to go back to this for a second. In the mayor's speech earlier in the year, or when he was MMC of Finance, he was saying that we were going to be looking at 77 kilometers. Again, that's nowhere near where we need to be. So these are small mitigating measures. But I think the biggest thing that also comes in, you've got a Joburg Water Board, which has been talk of the town lately, where you've got one engineer in the entire board. So you've got people who don't understand risk mitigation. They don't understand asset management. They're not working with supply chain management, which is why we're not getting these vehicles that we've also already paid for. So it's not enough. It's not enough. If you're not getting the basic governance right, this isn't going to come up.
All right, so serious questions that we can put again to the mayor and to the board. Nicole, thank you very much for talking to us this morning. Ward Councillor and Shadow MMC for Water Power Pikitup and the Environment, Nicole van Dyk. There's more for you around this corner. Don't move.